I am honored to welcome our speaker. Woo! He is newly ordained. Whoa, oh, 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 woo! Okay, calm down, calm down. Okay. He is newly ordained, I had to say it twice. Senior Minister, Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Baltimore, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. He has frequently been referred to as a Renaissance man. One look at his resume and the reason becomes clear. As a lifelong learner with a passion for self-development, personal transformation, transmutation, and self-awakening, he lives his bliss as a teacher, mentor, speaker, minister, and so much more. His mission is to live, move, and be an active, which is an acronym, authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered member of society who serves to educate, elucidate, emancipate, awaken, and empower people and communities. Come on, Reverend Dr. Ordained Reverend Rev. Woo!
Thank you very much, Tracy.
You're very welcome.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you all who are serving. Thank you, Frank and Jim. Thank you, Amashandra. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone in this beloved community. Thank you, new folks who this may be your first time with us. Thank you all for showing up as we venture down this path today, which is specifically regarding the journey to freedom. Right? So if you were here just a little bit earlier, then you heard Amashandra sing this amazing song regarding emancipation, mental emancipation, and redeeming ourselves into this whole new sphere of what it means to live free. So today, Journey to Freedom, a complete emancipation from every discord of every nature, is experienced more readily when we live from the consciousness that spirit is freedom itself. And so we embody that and begin to live from and as that very freedom. As we live, move, and have our beingness as freedom, we are emancipated from discord, and we become the catalysts, the change agents, the divine disruptors that alchemizes others to realize emancipation in their lives. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And the journey to freedom is about embodying and living the truth of love, unity, and freedom. Yeah, so take a breath, breathe, and laugh into the moment. Like with ease and grace. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, he did not seem to know that it was as necessary to free himself from prejudice as from the belief in matter. Okay, so pause and take that in. Because what I hear her saying is matter, the condition, the external thing that shows up. Someone didn't understand that this mental concept of prejudice and this lived experience, maybe illness or dis-ease, that they are requiring the same level of healing. So in other words, just because you think a thing doesn't make it different than when you feel or experience a thing. Pause and take that in, because anyone who received yesterday's text message, I believe it was yesterday's text message, the idea was, or maybe it's today's, I don't remember. It might be today's. The idea that, stop laughing at me, Tracy. The idea that, because Jesus said, and this is gender specific, Jesus said, dude, check this out. if you lust after that woman, right, in your mind, in your heart, then you have already committed adultery. And in the Buddha Dharma, the idea is the same. So it says, do not harm, do not cause harm to anyone, do not kill. But if you think harm towards another, you think about opening a can of on somebody, you just thought about it, then in essence, you've done it. So she is pointing out that the idea, the thought form of prejudice and the thought form that manifests as illness or disease are cured in the same space. Science of Mind says there is a tendency on the part of all of us to reproduce the accumulated experiences of the human race. So we tend toward the habitual nature of mass consciousness to just do what's always been done. That's how things have been. And I'm gonna just keep on doing it. We get stuck in the habit of race consciousness, meaning collective consciousness. So if we believe that things, maybe we believe that being out in the cold is what gives you a cold. Well, because Tracy just raised her hand. So if that's the subjective experience of the human race believes that, well, that's what my grandmother taught me. That's what my mom and dad taught me. That's what my 5th grade teacher taught me. So I'm going to keep on perpetuating the same idea. There is a tendency to continue along that path. But if we're going to be free, if we're going to be emancipated, then we must break the pattern. We must surrender that tendency in order to step into a new way of being, into a new way of showing up, into a new way of thinking, so that there is a new, remember, we say we are not bound by precedent, but we are bound by principle. So what does principle say about what we choose to believe and how we choose to live? Especially when we're talking about this thing, freedom. So what is freedom? Because we throw the word around a lot. Freedom, freedom, free this, free that, free other, free, free, free. So we talk about being free from something, being free to something. Then there's spiritual freedom, emotional freedom, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of freedoms. But how often do we really sit down and really breathe and contemplate when we use this word, what are we saying? Especially in this teaching, because if we're going to say freedom, the complete and total emancipation, freedom from all discord, well, what are we saying? Because if I am freed from illness or disease, then it means I am free to live whole, perfect, and complete. But if we don't really sit and anchor and marinate on and step into what it means to be free, which ultimately what we are doing is being freedom itself, because that which God is cannot be bound, cannot be prisoner, cannot be compartmentalized. So God has nothing to be freed from. God is freedom itself. So what is freedom when we're referring to God? The ever expanding consciousness. There is nothing that limits or binds or borders the consciousness of creation. It is free to be what it is as love, as light, laughter, joy, all of the goodness. If we're going to be this and embody it and live this, then there is one really big thing we must reconcile. And in order to do that, let's go to Nina Simone, who says, I'll tell you what freedom is to me, no fear. Freedom is no fear, because think about it. Fear is what causes us to worry. Fear is what causes us to be anxious. And I'm not talking about the anxiety, the kind of anxious, the kinetic energy and frenetic energy of, oh, it's Christmas Eve. I got gifts in the morning and I can't wait to wake up and open gifts. I'm not talking about that kind of anxiety. I'm talking about the anxiety of, oh my goodness, I got a doctor appointment tomorrow. What if they tell me X, Y, Z? Oh my goodness, what if I deliver this speech and I mess up? That kind of anxiety, that's fear-based. The fear of abandonment and loneliness. fear. So if we're going to be free, then we have to get to the part of, well, let's reconcile what fear is. What does fear mean? We have to move through it. Now, keep in mind, remember what I said earlier about this tendency to continue to stay in what mass consciousness says? Well, for those of us who were raised in a Judeo-Christian background, you may remember Proverbs 9:10, which said, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We were encouraged to be afraid of God. And it specifically says fear. It doesn't say respect for. Honoring the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It says the fear of. Now, why? Because God might turn you to a pillar of salt. God might bring plagues and locusts upon your house and family. God might smite you. God may do, Tracy's like, oh, we just said smite at the same time. You should have saw the look on her face. Her eyes got really big. But we were taught to fear God. But we have the fear of failure and success, fear of being alone, fear of death, fear of fill in the blank. All manner of fear that we must, but see, we don't like to reconcile with it because it means we have to address it. We have to look at it face on, stand at it and call it for what it is. And to stand there and look at it is fear, like fearfulness rises up. It's like watching The Exorcist and you see the priest facing the possessed woman, child, and they're like, oh, and you're like, oh, I'm glad that's not me because I'd be scared. I'm terrified just watching this. Tracy, come here. Tracy's like, nope, I'm scared myself. No. We're terrified of even watching a movie where people are facing fear and evil. And it's imagined. So imagine what it's like when we are addressing and facing the fears within our own lives. But if we're going to truly be free, then we must listen to Marcia Sinitar, who says, we choose in a wholesome direction despite feelings of fear or our need to cling to the familiar. We choose in a wholesome direction, even though there is fear, even though there is a tendency to keep the status quo alive, even though that's there, we still choose to move in a wholesome direction. Ernest Holmes says, we have been imposing bondage upon our experience by the same law which could easily produce freedom. The same law just as easily produces freedom, just as easily produces bondage. So which are we going to choose? It's the same law of mind and action. Which are we going to choose to demonstrate and embody? Freedom or emancipation? No, sorry, freedom is emancipation. Freedom and emancipation or enslavement and terrorism and othering and oppression. Like which one are we going to yield into, step into? Which one is the more wholesome direction? Freedom and emancipation or lack, scarcity, enslavement? Enslavement to what a former Christian minister taught us, enslavement to what mom and dad may have done to us, enslavement to even the fear of what our body may do as it aches and pains. Fear of, is that the wholesome path? Or is it redeeming and reconciling and stepping to a place of at-one-ment where we know and understand who and what we are? The laws of nature are always just because they are inexorable laws of cause and effect. Karma, cause and effect. They are always moving as such, cause and effect. Karma. We don't refer to, in our teaching, we don't refer to karma as, that cosmic bank account where what you did in a former lifetime is following you into this lifetime. If you were a bad person before, then you have karma to burn off. In this teaching, we don't see karma as that. Karma is cause and effect. It is reaping and sowing. It is recognizing that what is above and below are the same. It is the forever interplay of this. Ernest Holmes also says, breathe. All life, all health, all peace, and all possibility, doesn't say some, So breathe this in. All life, health, peace, and possibility exist in this power. It is a knowledge of this, and the conscious use of this knowledge, which will give freedom. Our loneliness, our sense of isolation, our poverty, doubt, and sickness are the results of being disconnected. And ultimately, keep in mind, breathe. Keep in mind, you cannot be disconnected from this power, because to be disconnected from this power would mean there is you and there is God as two separate things. So ultimately, we can never be disconnected, but our awareness can be disconnected. We can be aware of the sickness, doubt, and poverty in a way where we are not being aware of our truth. Our results of being disconnected from the fullness of this divine self, which I add on, this divine self, which is incarnating itself as each and every one of us. When we consciously use this knowledge and this power, then we change these effects. So now listen here, because my thing has been, and this is where we're moving, is how do we find people where they are who believe in their poverty, who believe in their sickness, and who believe in this thing that they doubt to such a degree that they are demonstrating their unawareness of the truth of their being. Wherever they are, I don't care if they're in what we call the ghettos, the slums, the bad neighborhoods, the whatever we call them, those people who experience homelessness, addiction, fear, loneliness, othering, abandonment. There is a whole slew of LGBTQ youth who have been kicked out of their homes, who have gone to New York City, who are homeless, living on the streets, doing what they need to do to survive. Then imagine if they were given the opportunity to embody this teaching, to recognize the truth of their being. Then they would no longer need to see themselves as the victims of. That regardless of what their parents or families did in denying them, they recognize that the truth of their being cannot be denied because it's God. And God, recognizing itself, is beyond denial. That they then step into their power and full pride of being God expressing as them. Imagine what this does for people of all races, colors, creeds, ethnicities, of all socioeconomic backgrounds, when they recognize and have this teaching as an opportunity to know, to redeem, to reconcile, and to step into what it means to have access to the full power and potentiality of their being. In The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, that person whose thought is the most godlike, that is the truest, is the highest, is the most noble, is the most complete, the most peaceful, that person will be the best healer. That person will be the best light worker. That person will be the best demonstration of God in the flesh that they possibly can be, to such a degree that their very presence changes those around them, because they know and they live and they move and have their being in this truth, in this completeness and this wholeness. And like a cologne or perfume that radiates off of them, the very aura that they give off changes those whom they come in contact with. But we have work to do if we're going to do that. And some of that work is understanding, as Sean Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I don't care if they're teens or not. We teenagers today, because we become what we repeatedly do. So if we look at what we repeatedly do, what is it showing that we have become and are continuing to become? If we continue to do this, put things off, procrastinate, sit around and wish rather than work, what is it that we are becoming in doing this? Habit and routine. The main difference between habit and routine is that habit is a recurrent with little or no conscious thought, whereas routine requires a higher degree of intention and effort. Okay, so you got that. That's the main difference. Habit, very little thought. You just do it. So that's why you can tie your shoes and do something else, have a conversation, because tying your shoes is a habit now. You know how to do it. That's why you can drive and drink tea and eat a sandwich. That's Tracy while she's driving, all at the same time, and having a conversation while picking sleep out of her eyes, all at the same time. I don't know how she does that, but she brings her left foot up to pick whatever. That's a habit, because she's grown accustomed to being able to do it with little or no conscious thought. But a routine takes more. A routine is putting it on your calendar and saying, every Monday, this is what I do. Every Tuesday, my routine is spiritual practice at 5 a.m. or what. Like, there's a routine to doing something. The routine, we have a routine for service. It starts with a pre-service meditation. Then there's the pre-service music, the pre-service gift that the musician offers us. Then we move into, like, there's a routine to it. However, the difference between routine and ritual is the attitude that is behind the action. While routines can be actions that just need to be done, there's the routine of washing dishes, etc., such as making your bed or taking a shower. It's a routine. You know, I shave twice a week because that's my routine. If I don't, then it itches and it bothers me and I'm grumpy. So I tend to, hey, it's my service right now. So I shave either Saturday night or Sunday morning, and I shave Wednesday. That's my routine, right? So making your bed, taking a shower. Whereas rituals are viewed as more meaningful practices that have a real sense of purpose. So like my ritual for when I'm doing my spiritual practice in my office downstairs is I light a candle and I light some incense. I turn on some music, I breathe, and then I move into whatever the meditation or spiritual practice is going to be. That's my ritual. If there's something that I forgot to do, it's like, oh, the vibe is off. So then I backtrack, recalculate, and start again. So it's important for us to be mindful that if you want to keep getting what you are getting, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to change it, you want something to be higher vibratory, higher demonstration, higher manifestation, then we must change the cause in order to change the effect. And all cause starts with thought. It starts in consciousness, where we think and where we feel. That's where it all starts. That's where the sowing begins. We are sowing into the law of mind and action with every thought and feeling. And the more we do this, the more we are laying the groundwork that then creates the effect, the condition, the demonstration. Your beliefs become your thoughts, which I actually think it's the opposite. Your thoughts become your beliefs, but we'll go with this anonymous person. Who is anonymous anyway? I don't know who that person is. Tracy said it's her. Tracy should flip this then. You should flip this. You wrote it wrong. Your beliefs, your thoughts become your beliefs. Your beliefs then become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits, your routines, etc. And those become what you value, and what you value becomes your destiny. Just marinate on that. What does that mean for you as you journey, as you step into what it means to embody freedom and live it? Ernest Holmes says, We should always ask ourselves if what we desire to produce, if what we desire produces harmony. Yeah, I'm not doing the wish thing. We should always ask ourselves if what we desire is producing harmony. Is it producing harmony? I desire for the manager at my job to slip and fall because I don't like what she said to me last week. That's not producing harmony, right? That's discord. And if that's what I am embodying in my thoughts and my heart, then that's what I'm going to create. So ask ourselves, this thing that I desire, new job, new romance, new building, new whatever, health and well-being, retire, is it producing harmony? And then be sure to ask, in this thing, is it harming anyone? If not, keep on keeping on. But because now this is where it gets a little tricky, because sometimes what we desire is coming from a place of competition. I want my company to outsell their company. I want my center to have more members than their center. I want us to have more money and more. Well, then that's competition. And if it's competition, then ultimately it's harming. Somewhere in consciousness, there's the idea that I want to be above them. I want us to do better than them. I want my football team to be better than their football team. I want them to lose. They deserve to lose. That's harm. Now, if it's quote unquote friendly competition where you can play chess and it's all good, then it's all good. But you have to be willing to reconcile and sit with that and truly ask yourself, is that where I'm coming from? Or am I coming from a place of me versus them? Eckhart Tolle says, the moment you become aware of the ego that is showing up in you, it is strictly speaking no longer the ego, but simply just an old, conditioned mind pattern. So let's go back to the tendency to continue to replicate what we replicate, the consciousness to keep on doing same old, that it becomes a conditioned pattern of mind the moment you identify it. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist in the same moment at the same time. So the moment you spot whatever it is, this is competition, me versus them, me wanting to be better than them. That's ego. I spotted it. It's ego. Now I am aware. Now I am able to consciously shift this conditioned mind pattern of othering and versus and being better or above. I'm now able to shift it because I'm aware of it. Breathe. Because this is a lot. I'm already sure Dr. Ronnie is like, man, if you don't quit with you realize this Thursday, we only gonna get through 3 of these slides, man. What you doing? Giving me too much for the study group.
Is that how she sounds?
In my mind, when she's fussing at me, yes. Okay. Because in my mind, I imagine her fussing at me pretty often with these slides, but we're not going to go there because I'm sure she's on and she's probably shaking her head at me right now. So let us move on. This week's practice. What do each of these, getting ready to come up in blue, what do each of these mean to me and how do I demonstrate them in the world? From the CSL Global Vision, we envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement and justice, and I would add equity. What does this mean to me? It's the vision of our parent organization, which means it is also partly the vision of CSL Greater Baltimore. Every person, each and every person has and is able to participate in this. What does that mean to me? Who do I have to become in order to make this a lived reality? And then from our Declaration of Principles, written by Holmes in 1927, we believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. And I could easily tack on, we believe in the complete and total emancipation of like that's the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is a complete, total emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. What does this mean to me? And then this week, make a list of some of your daily or weekly habits, your routines and your rituals. Tracy's shaking her head. No, Tracy don't ever do this. None of these. Tracy doesn't do any of them.
Really?
No, I'm messing with you.
I do them sometimes.
And then, hey, my service. No, but seriously, make a list of these things and then rate them as being enhancing or detracting from how you desire to show up. So just say, this is one of my habits. Every day after work, I stop off at Krispy Kreme Donuts and get 3 dozen donuts.
Ouch.
Is that enhancing who I want to show up in the world as, or is it taking away from who I want to be in the world as? Is it benefiting, or is it taking away from? And then lastly, have a conversation with dos personas about any fears that you may have and what it would mean for you to be free from those fears and what you are doing to emancipate yourself from them. So simply identify something that, something that brings you angst, anxiety, and worry, something that you're afraid of. And then talk to the person about, like, what am I doing to help move through this so that I am free from this fear? And we breathe as we prepare for our declaration for this week. This week's affirmation, I will read it first and then together. Love is freedom, and it acts through me and as me. And the law of love frees us all. Together, love is freedom, and it acts through me and as me. And the law of love frees us all. And at this time, let us anchor in for our closing benediction, simply knowing that that which God is as freedom itself is incarnating itself in, through, and as all that we are. That means ultimately, the truth of our being is we are already free. Every man, woman, child, gender-rich individual, our siblings beyond gender, everything and everyone is free. And those who do not recognize or know it, those who are not currently experiencing it, we do what we need to do. Hitting the streets, running, bringing this teaching, this philosophy, showing up as the magnificence of God personified as us, so that each and every being, each and every incarnation of God is given the full opportunity to know their freedom, to live that freedom, to be fed, to be clothed, to be housed, to have justice and equity, to know the divine truth of their being. That's why we're here. That's what it means to demonstrate a world that works for all. One person at a time, one thought at a time, one word of encouragement and laughter and joy at a time, sending these ripples out. That is why we're here, to love up on each other, to redeem one another, to simply be God, individually and collectively. That is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, surrendered in gratitude into the law of mind in action. Therefore, this prayer is already answered and it's already done. And therefore we say, and so it is.